There's 3 layers here, okay? So the bulk of the wall is the myocardium, okay? It's muscle. Okay? This superficial layer, epicardium, on top of the cardium, okay? And the lining inside the chambers, endocardium, okay, inside. Also, let's see, there's 4 chambers here. There's 2 atria and 2 ventricles. You have to keep the right and left straight with the heart because the right and left parts of the heart have different functions, okay? All right, so anatomical position is where this heart fits in me, okay? So this is my right, it's the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, the left ventricle, okay? One thing that sometimes confuses people because you have overlapping structures, the outside of the atria, these little flaps out here, they're the auricles, okay? The auricle is not the same thing as the atria, right? It's the little flaps on them, okay? So they're right on top of it, but... Okay. Atrioventricular orifices, okay? So the atrioventricular orifice should be between the atrium and the ventricles. What's an orifice? It's a hole. That's right. So, this particular model is a little bit confusing there because the valves are closed here, so there's seemingly no opening, but if they were open, that's the orifice. Okay, it shows better on the other models. Okay, and then the valves. Okay, there's 2 sets of valves. So there's the atrioventricular valve, same thing. Atrioventricular valve should be between the atrium and the ventricles. That's these. Okay, so there's a right AV valve and a left AV valve. However, okay, these valves have multiple names, and you got to know all of them because they're all in common use. Okay, so the right is sometimes called the tricuspid. The left is sometimes called the bicuspid or the mitral.
Wow, so many different names out there. Nobody can agree, huh?
So, and then the other 2 valves are the semilunars. They're a little harder to find, okay? These are right in the middle, okay? The semilunars, there's an aortic and a pulmonary, so they're associated with the blood vessels. This, okay, that's the aorta. So there's the aortic semilunar, okay, right there. All right. Notice how it's kind of tucked up towards the top, okay? The model actually makes it look like it's easier to find than it is the dissection. It's really tucked up in there, okay? And the same thing, the pulmonary semilunar, this is the pulmonary trunk. So the pulmonary semilunar is where it starts. Likewise, okay, when we look at the dissection, you'll find out it's way up at the top. Okay, the chordae tendineae. These little things right here, I don't know what you call them. These are the chordae tendineae. Okay, oh wait, these are the papillary muscles. These are the chordae tendineae. Okay, little tendons that run from the valves to the papillary muscles.
Tendineae.
Yeah. Okay, they're really kind of string-like in this model. They don't really look string-like. These are the papillary muscles down here. Okay. And the atrioventricular sulcus. Okay, this is on the surface. Okay, so sulcus, you already know, it's a groove, right? Okay, so atrioventricular sulcus is between the atria and ventricles. Okay, so from the outside, that's where the ventricles are, that's where the atria are. So this, running all the way around, is the atrioventricular sulcus. Okay, it's a groove between the 2. Okay, then the interventricular sulci. Okay, so between the ventricles, okay, like see here's a little groove here, this is between left and right, okay, so this is the anterior interventricular artery, and also the anterior interventricular sulcus is the groove. It doesn't show this as well on this model, it shows it better on some, okay, but this would be the posterior interventricular. Okay, all right, the blood vessels. The blood vessels here take a little doing to keep track of. Okay. What I recommend you try to do is try to learn them in order, okay? Because they don't look that different. So, if you know where you are, okay, you got your right, you got your left, okay? Then the most anterior is, this is the pulmonary trunk. Okay. Then A little more posterior and to the right is the aorta, and a little more posterior and further to the right yet is the superior vena cava. Okay. All right, and then the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary veins. Okay. Let's see, so the branches of the pulmonary trunk, these right here are the pulmonary arteries. Okay, and these right here are the pulmonary veins. So one of the things you notice is that you can generally rely on blue meaning veins and red meaning arteries. You can come around on this side if you want to. Okay. But it's not necessarily that's true with the heart. Okay? The reason it's not is because blue isn't really a code for veins and red isn't really a code for arteries. What it really is a code for is oxygenated blood. Okay? So red vessels carry oxygenated, blue carry deoxygenated. So in the entire rest of the body, okay, that's no problem because always the veins are blue, they carry deoxygenated blood. Here it's not true, okay? And this is where you're going to have to learn about the circulation of the blood through the heart, okay? So, for instance, okay, so the real definition of an artery is not that it carries oxygenated blood, but that it is pumped, is coming from the heart and going to some target tissue. Okay? And okay, likewise, a vein returns blood to the heart. Okay? So this right here, the pulmonary trunk, divides into the pulmonary arteries because it's leaving the heart and going to the lungs. Okay, so it's an artery, and so therefore it's blue, but it's still an artery. Okay? The aorta, actually, it is an artery. Okay, and it's red, and the branches off it are all red, so that works the way you expect. Okay. And again, the vena cava, it's a vein, it's blue, that's fine, okay? What you get the other little weirdie here is the pulmonary arteries. These, okay, are coming back from the lungs. So of course the blood's oxygenated, and so of course they're red. Okay? But they're still veins because they're coming to the heart. Okay, so you have red veins. Okay. Then another thing that's real important is the coronary arteries. Okay? The coronary arteries are important because most of what people call heart disease is coronary artery disease. Okay? And since maybe half the people in this country die from it, it's a big deal. When you're when you're working in a hospital, you're going to have floors full of people, and at least half of them will have heart disease, okay? They may have other things too, you know, but they'll all have heart disease, okay? So it's a big deal, and it's generally a blockage in these arteries, okay? So there's 4 of these, right? So there's a left coronary artery, okay? So this, they're leaving the aorta, okay? So there's a little left coronary artery, okay? This branch goes down in here. So that's the anterior interventricular sulcus, so it's the anterior interventricular artery, okay, right here, okay? And the other branch of the left travels around the back of the heart here and gives off some branches, okay? It's called the circumflex, okay? It sort of forms part of a circle, I think that's where it comes from. Okay, and then over here, we have the right coronary artery, coming off here, and it gives off 2 principal branches. One, smaller one here, is the marginal, okay? And the other one is here. This would be the posterior interventricular. Okay? So one other thing to notice is, notice that the left coronary artery is really short. Okay, it almost immediately branches to form the anterior interventricular and the circumflex. The right is fairly long, okay, because it comes off here and it gives off a couple branches. Okay, so this is the right, and the branch, that's a branch, and that's a branch. Okay, so usually when you talk about coronary bypasses, like the most you'll ever have is maybe say 4, and that's because the 4 coronary arteries. Sometimes you need an extra one, you get a 5th one or something like that. Okay, so when we'll pass on the cardiac veins, which are really all found in the same place. Okay. All right, so that's the model.
Go ahead.